Welcome back to No Fear, No Favour. This is episode 5, part 1, where we're taking a deep dive into President Donald Trump's first 6 months as dictator of the United States of America. Now, without doubt, Trump has been busy in his first 6 months. Mainly dodging the release of the Epstein files, but he's also done some other stuff which is worth recounting. He's lied about crime statistics in LA and Washington, DC, and he sent the National Guard in, spitting on the US Constitution as he goes. Check this out.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged-out maniacs and homeless people, and we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it.
Gee, it's a real pity he didn't do that on January the 6th. Anyway, he's also deployed his brown shirt thugs in masks, his secret police, known as ICE, across the country. They're snatching brown people off the streets, including citizens. They're splitting up families, and they're putting them into concentration camps with all rights and due process completely ignored. So, secret police militias snatching citizens off the streets, concentration camps, ignoring the courts. Funny, absolutely no similarity at all to the way Nazi Germany started under Hitler. Funny that. Let's also not forget Trump and his team pre-election, with their promises made, promises kept talking point.
Today I signed this bill into law. Almost every major promise made in the 2024 campaign already will have become a promise kept.
But here's the truth about Trump's big promises. 90 deals in 90 days, actual result, none. Getting drug prices down, remember this?
Because this is something that nobody else can do. We're going to get the drug prices down, not 30 or 40%, which would be great, not 50 or 60. No, we're going to get them down 1,000%, 600%, 500%, 1,500%, numbers that are not even thought to be achievable because I've used a certain talent that I have and convinced the drug companies that you have no choice. The drug companies...
Complete bullshit. And then there's the war in Ukraine.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly. I will get the problem solved, and I will get it solved in rapid order. And it will take me no longer than one day. I know exactly what to say to each of them. I got along very well with them.
Fixed within 24 hours, eh? Or just concepts of a plan? Can we now finally accept the great orange predator wants only one thing from these negotiations over Ukraine, apart from serving his master Putin? It's a Nobel Peace Prize. It's his obsession. But have you ever stopped to wonder, why is this so important to you? Well, I'm going to tell you. Is it because he wants the killing to stop?
Are you on Ukraine's side now?
No, I'm on nobody's side. I'm the no.
Why?
I want to. You know the side I'm on? Humanity's side. I want to stop the killing of thousands of people a week. I want to stop the killing.
No, Trump doesn't give a shit about people dying. His COVID mismanagement and shutting down USAID means he already has the blood of millions on his tiny little hands. And like all delusional psychopaths, people dying means nothing to Trump. The truth is, he wants a Nobel Peace Prize because this guy got one. Former president who just happened to be a black guy. And in Trump world, it is simply outrageous that a black man should have higher or equal standing to whitey. For them, It's the worst form of DEI. But the distractions don't work, Donald. We still all want to see the Epstein files. And you have to ask, what on earth do you have to fear, I wonder? Why are you fighting so hard, mate, to hide these files? It's quite fascinating, really. But we'll find out one day. And one final thing before I bring in Adam Jacoby to join me. I still believe that great leaders should have great character. And you may recall this gentleman.
Because I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
Now let's compare that great character with this guy.
You know, she gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
I moved on her, actually. You know, she was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and she was married.
Huge news.
Yeah, that's her, with the gold. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the I can do anything.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that. Yeah.
Wow. Unfortunately or fortunately. Jesus, all hail the predator in chief. But you can't hide forever, Donny. You can't hide forever. And on that note, please welcome to episode 5, part 1 of No Fear, No Favour. Okay, good morning and welcome, Adam Jacoby. How are you, mate?
Hello, mate. Good to see you again.
Yeah, great. Listen, we're going to get straight into it. We've had a little bit of an intro. We want to talk about two key things. The first one is a 6-month review of, I'm not sure if it's President Trump or Emperor Trump or King Trump, one or the other. We're going to talk about some of the promises that he made and some of the promises he might have kept and some other stuff that's actually come up. And basically, we'll combine on an assessment, if you like, about how we think Trump's presidency is going. And then secondly, we want to talk about the Epstein files, a lead up into where we are, what's actually going on. I've kept a very close eye on this and also where we think it's going. So look, to kick things off, we got a little bit of a list there about promises that Trump made. Do you want to address one of them? And I think it's probably what they call the big, beautiful bill. What were your thoughts about that, the lead in, and also what did it end up being?
Yeah, look, it was big, but it certainly wasn't beautiful. I think it's entirely unsurprising and yet equally shocking. So, you know, I think Trump has always been about protecting billionaires and creating an environment that further oppressed and made life difficult for the 99% so that the 1% can continue to lead the lives that they do. So there's nothing surprising about the bill. I think the cruelty of some of the stuff that related to cutting medical and research investments, I think was a bit staggering, to be honest. I mean, it's not just irresponsible; it's kind of sociopathic.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I think the amount of money that is being put into ICE is genuinely frightening. Like it's Nazi level, building his own private army frightening.
Yeah. And got like brown shirted guys basically going around with masks on and snatching people off the streets, whether you're an immigrant, whether you're a legal citizen, doesn't matter what you are. If you appear to be a little bit off white, you're fair game.
Yeah, it's a state sanctioned kidnapping ring. That's what it is. Yeah.
And also when you look at what they're doing with what do they call it, alligator Alcatraz, they are actually creating concentration camps.
Yeah.
And actually offshore concentration camps and just disappearing people into these camps.
Yeah, and the thing I find like interesting is that, and by interesting you can read that as horrific, is that, you know, they'll build these camps. They're pulling people off the street for no reason, including American citizens. They're trying to go after clauses in the Constitution that would protect American citizens. And at the same time, they're going, "Oh, we're going to have a great Olympics." And like, who the fuck do they think is going to go to that country and hang out at the Olympics with a chance of being sent to El Salvador for no reason? Like, they are smoking something. Those people. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The
Well, I
disconnect
think that,
between the reality they're creating and the way they think people see them is just unbelievable.
yeah. And I think Trump is the front man, but what I find most concerning, but it could be a good thing for America, is the Republicans are all in on this with him. And so when the time comes, whether this old man dies or is assassinated or is no longer there, they're going to have to face the music and bring on the midterms next year.
So that's where I'm not 100% sure of that, right? So I am of the opinion that there are certainly forces in the Republican Party working against Trump. Now, I think there a further deal with the devil has been done, which is that Vance is intended to become the emperor. The ongoing leaks about Epstein, the fact that it won't really die as a story, the fact that the economy is tanking and nobody's really defending that. There's just little signs everywhere. The fact that Vance goes off to meet with Murdoch, there's just little things that are happening that you kind of go, I think they're waiting for it to get unbelievably bad because they know it will, because they're creating what's going to lead to it, to then be able to just knock him off and go, all right, let's sacrifice him now. It's time.
So we've had a bit of, I agree. We've had a bit of progress, what I would call the split in MAGA since we last spoke. And I think even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a horrific human being, but she's now talking about maybe leaving the Republican Party. Some of the, some of Trump's bros that, the podcasters, even Joe Rogan, are starting to say, hey, we didn't vote for this. We didn't vote for dragging people off the streets. But
you know what? But they did. He couldn't have been fucking clearer. He said that the deportations would start on day one, and they did. So they did vote for it. What they didn't do was think about what it actually meant when they were voting for it.
Yeah, that's true. I think what their argument is, we didn't vote for plucking anyone off the street, because now they're arguing it was violent illegals. It's okay, and I think everybody agrees if you're a violent criminal and you're undocumented, sure, you should be kicked out of the country. But they're saying, we didn't expect that they'd be rounded, like they'd be a quota of 3,000 a day. But one thing I also found interesting in the lead up into the election, going back and looking at Trump's promises about what he would do. And so they talked about the open border. It was never an open border, and lying about 10 million people coming. And you remember the Haitian immigrants eating cats and dogs. There are all these lies in the lead up there. They now claim that there's that the crossings at the border are zero. And one of the interesting comments I heard about that is, if you're saying there are zero crossings at the border, that's because you're not capturing them. Yeah. And then when the other mob, the previous government was saying, look, we've stopped 100,000, it's because the process was working well.
They were being abducted from court.
Yes.
There are people who are literally at court getting abducted. Look, I'll be honest. I've never understood the immigration thing. I understand intellectually why people, if you're undocumented and you're not meant to be in the country, fine. You know what? These people are doing jobs that Americans don't want to do, and they are the underpinning foundation of their entire fucking economy. So I don't understand what the issue is. And I lived in America for a number of years, and I lived in California where there are a very high percentage of people from outside of America. Didn't make a difference to life. In fact, it made life better. This underpinning racism, which is you're different, and then they'll go, but if they did it legally, then it would be okay. Well, they're trying to do it legally, and you're fucking abducting them and sending them to El Salvador. Yeah. So what do you want? Do you want them to do it legally, or do you not want them at all? It really feels like you don't want them at all.
I'll tell you one thing. I think I might have an answer for you on this. And by the way, the first illegal immigrant that should be returned is Melania Trump, but I'm sure they won't get onto that. But this is my belief. The two things on this, two answers. The first one is Republicans and right-wingers actually have no values. They have no real vision beyond trickle-down economics, tax cuts for how society should work. And that's true. And they try to dress it up with we are conservatives and all this horse shit. but it doesn't actually mean anything. So in order to get into power, they must appeal to the lowest common denominator with fear. And it's fear of people, for example, that it used to be drugs, it'd be fear of war, fear of other nations, but it's fear of people that don't look like us. Be very afraid of these people. All this MS-13 bullshit, when the statistics show that the great majority of violent crimes are done by white American citizens, not by immigrants at all. It's completely the opposite. But there is one reason for this, and it's what I call the full basis of Republican capitalism. And that is Republican capitalism, the way they want it, relies on one thing, and that is cheap labour. It started with slavery, and then we went through from slavery to tax cuts and trickle-down economics. This will come down through to you. And then it's got immigrant labour. So in other words, it's funny, isn't it, that the employers that were committing the crimes of employing illegal people never get prosecuted for this, the guys with the businesses. So there's the latest lead in through to this is if you're able-bodied, we're kicking you off Medicaid. You're not going to have your health insurance. You're not going to get your food stamps. You've got to go and work. And you know where you're going to work? You're going to work at a minimum wage job at my business to maximise my profit.
But here's the thing, right? So I couldn't agree with you more. I've been talking about this and posting about this for the last few weeks. So I agree. Capitalism is the underlying problem. Full stop. But when you actually break it down, you say, well, what is the actual ideological intent of capitalism? What is it about? Why does it exist? It exists, and it only exists to create shareholder value. That's the only reason it exists. For a period when it was a healthier version of capitalism, it felt as though people who were engaged in the capitalistic system felt as though there was a social contract, which was to say, if I'm going to make money as an owner, you're going to be able to buy a house and have a nice life, and that is the transaction and the trade. You work for me, you work hard, but you're able to build a life. And yes, I'll make a little bit more money than you will, but I give back and we'll help community and we'll build, we'll give to hospitals and we'll build parks and all those sorts of things.
It's called a decent society, I think.
Yeah. We're in a metastasized version of capitalism now, right? And we've been heading in this trajectory for 40 or 50 years. And the point now is we're at the apex of its original intent, which is shareholder value. And if all you're trying to do is create value for shareholders, then you want to oppress workers because you're trying to squeeze every last dollar out of it. You want to make sure that you can offshore. You want to be able to pollute and not have to restore the land. So all the things that create problems with capitalism, we've reached this nadir now where the system is working the way it was originally intended to work because we've stripped away the social contract. And people go, oh, well, good. There's good capitalism and there's bad capitalism. There's not. Capitalism's intent is shareholder value. And if you actually live that out to its fullest extent, what you get is what we have now. Yeah. What we had before was not real capitalism. What we have now is real capitalism.
But the argument too some people make is, yeah, but for example, shareholder value means, well, we're all sort of shareholders in these businesses that we see in the NASDAQ and we see in the S&P 500. So when the stock market goes up, for example, that's lifting everybody. It's complete horseshit. When you look at the makeup of the actual markets and who's making the real money, it's that top 5% once again.
Correct. And again, capitalism is, and when I talk about capitalism, I'm not talking about it at a transactional level. I'm talking about it from a systems level, right? And so at a systems level, it's all of the interdependencies and peripheral relationships that make that system work. So for example, if billionaires paid tax, we wouldn't be in the problem that we're in.
Correct.
If multinationals paid tax,
yep,
we wouldn't have the problem that we're in. If government officials were restricted from trading stocks, we wouldn't be in the trouble that we're in.
Yes.
If corporate vested interests weren't able to donate to parties, we wouldn't be in the problem that we're in. These are all part of the capitalist system, right? And all of them erode its ability to live up to the social contract. All of them.
And you know, there's another point to this too, which I never hear spoken about much. If America wanted to be serious about its manufacturing base, you know what it would do? It would pay its workers a living wage and then say to society, look, in order to be America first and you buy American, you're going to have to sacrifice something. Things will be a little bit more expensive, but that's going to keep American workers well paid, have a living wage, respect even the opportunity to own a home. And that's one of the great lies that the capitalists in America tell people. We can bring manufacturing back, and it's bullshit. It left for a reason. It left for a reason because we make more profit by offshoring than if we do it here. And so Trump will live on this lie, so will the GOP for a while, that they're bringing manufacturing back through the tariffs. We all know it's bullshit, and we know sooner or later that will explode. It's just a question of how long they can actually prolong that lie before it becomes too obvious.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, we're already seeing it. The unemployment rate is growing, the economy is tanking. You're right. It is a period of time until people go, holy shit, I can't afford food.
Yeah.
And we're not that far away from that, by the way.
We are.
And I can't afford my rent, and I can't afford my mortgage, and these things are coming. The other thing is that the tariffs are going to, and we haven't seen the result of them yet, but we're about to raise the prices of everything for
Yes.
Americans, literally everything. And that's going to exacerbate the problem.
Yeah.
And at that point, there is very little wriggle room for the GOP, because this is a problem of their own creation.
Yeah.
They've backed in this idiocy from day one.
Yep.
The only person, ironically, who has been calling it out as idiocy is Musk, who I fucking hate, and but he has been calling it idiocy from the beginning and going, this is not a good idea. This is not going to end well.
Sorry, mate. I don't give him credit on that. I think what Musk is saying, Musk was prepared to do anything. He was prepared to do anything that Trump wanted in order for him to maintain his EV mandates and maintain. He's now arguing against a lot, but that's only because they're having a bitch fight.
I agree that a lot of what he's saying is self-serving, but nevertheless, he's been calling it out, and at least he's been saying it where others have been too afraid to say it. Now, he has the luxury of not really being beholden to anyone, so it's not that difficult to do. But at the same time, and again, to our earlier conversation about capitalism, he's just been handed $29 billion from his board for the worst performing car company in the last 2 years. And he gets a $29 billion award for that. Capitalism at its finest. But we're at a point where Americans are going to hurt. We're at a point.
By the way, can I stop you for a second just on Musk? You remember when he came out and he said, we'll talk about the Epstein list in a tick, but he was talking about, have a nice day. Trump is definitely on the Epstein list. By the way, anyone with half a brain already knows that, but we'll go into that in a little more detail in a tick. But I'm not sure if you're aware, but so they had that spat, and all of a sudden there was silence, and it looked like, and Musk had backed off. And I read this week that Musk has just kicked $50 million into a Trump super PAC in the last week. So I think you might find that he's been reined in.
I'm not sure, right? So yes, I saw the same article about the money going in. What happens when Trump is no longer the president and all that money gets argued to be part for the Republican Party and for the government, right?
Yep,
So I have a slightly different view of what all of that is. This is,
in other words, they might be preparing for battle.
Correct. So
yes, okay, right.
And so look, the reality is, going back to the earlier statement about the economy and the tariffs and everything else, Americans are going to hurt. They can't rely on the judiciary to help them, the average American person. They can't rely on legacy media to call out these things, save for MSNBC, and nobody really watches that anyway. I do, but people like us on the left watch it, but nobody else watches it. So I think they're in a world of hurt, and there are very, very few avenues to get out of it at this point to save themselves.
I think you're right. Did you, by the way, just swinging, we mentioned before on the labour markets and the news that came through this week, did you keep an eye on that and the repercussions of jobs in America? So the July jobs was 73,000. They will be revised down a lot, by the way. And then there was a correction of over 200,000 for the figures for May and June, which is, a lot of people like to pretend about different statistics in an economy, but I think job creation is one that you can't escape, can you? They're in a bit of a world of pain.
Yeah, I mean, and what's frightening about it is that he gets numbers that he doesn't like, so he fires the head of the Statistics Bureau. Then he's just had NASA basically take 2 satellites offline that were tracking climate change and carbonisation. This is a guy who doesn't want facts out in the open. He's very clearly doing everything he can to say, I will craft the narrative and I want no evidence of anything to the contrary.
And you know what? It works. This is the thing. And Fox News, who are disgraceful, will just. And you know who's almost worse than Fox News? And we'll do a deep dive on this one day. It's Sky News in Australia. That they have permanent residence in that guy's lower colon. Everything that he does. They praise him. They say, look at this guy go, isn't he fantastic? He's such a great leader. Almost like, I wish we had one like that in Australia, that type of thing. It's
No,
disgusting.
I have 5 kids and several jobs, and I travel a lot, and so I'm reasonably well regarded as a masochist. But that's a level of masochism I'm not prepared to go into. I don't watch Fox Australia because I respect myself too much.
Yeah, look, I probably spend too much time on YouTube, Adam, and so you can't avoid it. And I must admit, I don't watch it, but I see the headlines popping up, and it's amazing how they can spin terrible news. But even Fox News and even one of his buddies on MSNBC were looking at this. It was so funny when the jobs figures came out, and there was the Fox panel, and they're all looking at it and saying, shit, expectations 115, job numbers was 73. And then they quickly move on to another subject saying, well, it's a bit early to tell yet. It's like
Yeah.
in the first few weeks, it's too early to tell. 6 months, 100 days, too early to tell about his strategy, this 4D chess and all the rest.
Yeah.
Now it's 6 months in. It's like it's a little bit early to tell on the tariff. So it's like,
Yeah, well,
unbelievable.
it's no different to the DOJ with the Epstein files. We're going to release the files. That was the entire friggin' campaign theory.
That was part 1 of episode 5 of No Fear, No Favour. Part 2 will be out before you know it. In the meantime, let's not let Trump dodge the real bullet here. He can keep running and he can keep deflecting, but we all know he's hiding something pretty horrific to do with his best mate, Jeffrey Epstein. And my instincts tell me that when the truth finally comes out, and it will, then President Predator will be Gonski. And even the morons of MAGA in their infinite stupidity will turn against him. So, to the FBI, just do your job. Release the Epstein files as you promised, because when Trump is gone, a lot of people with significant power will be reviewing what you do today, and I promise you, judgment will be harsh. Until next time.